Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Lori Souza, and welcome to Women in Crypto, and where we discover the future of money, markets, and payments, and the top women in cryptocurrency. Today, our special guest is Ahola Ward, and Anne is an author, futurist, and a growth scientist, and also deemed the mother of all startups and the CEO of Circle Click Media. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, so glad that you're here and to talk about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology and the future.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're a futurist.
Absolutely. I have been since I knew it was a thing. I've always had visions of the future and what technology can do to enable those visions.
That's awesome. I love it. So how did you get started in blockchain technology?
I would say it was something that I was always vaguely aware of. My husband was in the financial industry. We both worked on Wall Street years ago. And so it was sort of something I knew about, but I didn't really get excited about it until I would say like 6 or 7 years ago when I was able to buy a crock pot on overstock.com using Bitcoin. And it was like, whoa, this is real now. And so being an emerging tech person, I was always sort of aware of it, but I didn't really until I understood the real power of it did I get on board.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, you can't buy anything with Bitcoin. Why would you want to use it? And so you've just shared with us that you can. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So where else can somebody shop and buy Bitcoin?
Right. I mean, a lot of people just hold it. I think that's probably one of the things that's keeping the industry from growing even further is the fact that it is harder to spend it. The acceleration of digital currencies will only happen once people can spend it rather than just acquire it.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of one of the issues that the industry has been facing is the usability.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about one of the projects you have going on right now at Circle Click.
So I work with my team and I should say, work with a lot of emerging tech startups.
Yeah.
So we basically help companies that need to scale and grow online in doing that. And it's been, sort of a interesting time this year in 2020.
Yeah.
But definitely we have a few stealth projects I'm not able to specifically talk about due to NDAs, but I can say that blockchain is still alive and kicking, and I think there's a lot of exciting uses we're going to see happen with it in response to what's happening in the world.
Oh, absolutely. And you're probably seeing a real busy time with everybody wanting to digitize.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fortunate that we're so busy at this time because I know a lot of people are having the opposite. And so I think it's definitely, created some opportunities for us and helping companies grow is the way that I can help the industry.
Yeah. Well, we talked earlier about being an advocate for blockchain and being a futurist of this technology. And so what can you share with our listeners on how you see it transforming the financial services?
Well, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people started to pay attention after, JP Morgan and launched JP Coin last year. I think that was really the turning point for a lot of people I knew in the financial industry to start taking it seriously. When you're looking at, reducing the amount of you're paying in transactions, the amount of speed, there's some exciting potential applications there to modernize an industry that maybe has had some issues doing that. I think that, I can't point to any one thing right now, but I really think it is, trust and online verification are things that are only going to need to increase as we spend more of our lives online. And I think blockchain is uniquely poised to do that because its core focus is to help build trust between counterparties. I mean, that's essentially what it does. And so this is a golden time for that to happen.
Absolutely. And building a transaction of trust.
Exactly.
Digitization. Wow. And so you're a trailblazer, futurist, a growth scientist. That's amazing work that you're doing, being a trailblazer in technology. So tell us a little bit more about um, one of the startups without going into too much detail. Are you working with smart contracts or cryptocurrency or blockchain?
Specifically, I'm working with companies that are using blockchain to help make the internet a safer place.
Okay.
I think that something that has happened this year has definitely been that as we have, had the things happening globally, I think there's been less privacy. And so I'm definitely working with a few companies that are looking to help restore that balance. I think it's just really interesting how government is trying to catch up in understanding the technology, yet trying to regulate it at the same time. And so it's just been a very interesting landscape for us in emerging tech because the law hasn't quite caught up with the tech because the lack of understanding, but also, we're in unprecedented times in a global pandemic. And things like contact tracing are very interesting because here are these big tech companies that, we're mad at for all that they collect about us are now kind of flipping it around and saying, we're going to use this information to help humanity. And so this is just not a landscape I think any of us could have ever predicted. And so technology is here to help facilitate that. And so I am very interested in working with companies who do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so safety and privatization, tracking, it seems to be it's going to be a controversial now that we're in with COVID, as
Absolutely.
keeping everything private, but yet being able to trace and track. Yeah, I was talking to somebody tracking masks even. Are the masks even safe for somebody in the front line to actually be wearing? Have they gone through the checks and the balances, of the safety, the quality assurance, So that's not something that you think about unless you're actually helping a patient, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't know too much about that specifically. I just know that, that's another great case for blockchain, right?
Right.
The prevention of the counterfeiting, IBM's 5 and 5 initiative that they announced last year and working on using blockchain to help the counterfeiting of medicine. A lot of people get ripped off or end up getting sick or dying even because they're not getting the right medications. So in that one instance, think about that. If we can use blockchain to figure that out, how amazing would it be to take that to other industries like PPE, getting people
Right.
real protective gear that's actually certified. So I think the potential is there, but there are definitely still the same hurdles that have been there for the last few years in user adoption, usability. But it does seem like enterprise hasn't changed its feelings on the matter.
Right.
Enterprise is still moving forward because I think there's a viability there. It just needs to be specific to an actual problem and not a problem, a general sweeping problem, which is I think what we saw a couple years ago. It was blockchain everything when really that didn't make much sense.
Not yet. Yeah. Now, I think it's going to take some time, but as long as we can keep getting more and more people involved, and there's no shortage of jobs in blockchain, that's for sure.
Well, right. And solving real problems.
Yeah.
I think that's where blockchain has its chance to shine and take the global stage.
Yeah. Well, very good. Very good. And so, what do you think about Amazon then and Facebook with their adoption of digital currencies?
I mean, I think it's been weird. I mean, I don't think Libra was really quite the success that Facebook was hoping for, but I also know that if anybody if anybody has the potential to make this actually global, it would be one of those two companies. So I think the potential is there. I think the regulatory landscape is very confusing, and I think a lot of people are skeptical. That doesn't mean that they can't pull it out, and maybe they'll figure something out that no one else has. But I think it's too soon to really tell how this is all going to pan out. But it seems like there's been some fits and spurts, at least on the Facebook side. I'm less familiar with Amazon, but in that regard, but I think the interest alone is exciting, right?
Right.
The interest alone is going to signal to other big companies like this is real, this is happening. So I think it adds legitimacy to the industry as well.
Yeah. Well,
and there's a value to that.
There sure is, and you can't help but hearing about it everywhere, especially on LinkedIn, and it's the new technology. So do you have any advice for anybody who's just getting started in blockchain or wants to actually figure out if they should be using blockchain?
Yeah, I mean, I think using blockchain for the sake of it is something that maybe worked in a fundraising landscape for 2017 or 2018. I don't think it's necessarily the smart choice for every problem at this point in time. So I think, good old market viability research, competitive research, these are things that will help you figure out if this is the right technology for you. I think that we're early days. It's been around for more than a decade, but it's still early days. And if you are going to be on the forefront using these technologies to solve problems, you have to understand that there's an adoption hurdle and be willing to get over that and know how to get over that to expect big results. So I think it's the right tool for most, not most, I shouldn't say. I think it can be the right tool for the job, but I think that it has to be a very specific use case and it has to make sense. And maybe that's not such a striking revelation, but you have no idea how many startups came and went in 2018, 2019, because they just wanted to be in the space. And that's not necessarily the best reason to use this technology.
No, it's got to have a value add and actually create more efficiency as well.
Well, and tap into a community that needs the product or needs the problem solved in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some great examples of how blockchain can help with, credit, identity, all these other things. But these are big problems. So I think a mistake I've seen some startups make in the space is definitely trying to go it alone rather than smart partnering.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're doing something similar to someone down the road, have the conversation, at least know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Joining forces is what's needed to happen. Building communities, needs to happen to make big moves and big global changes.
Yeah. Well, good. And so do you have any offers or any information you'd like to share with our listeners, or where to find you? How can they contact you?
The best place to find me is always Twitter.
Yeah.
Annbot at Twitter, ANNEBOT. And I'm basically Annbot at everything. So that's the best way to find me, but I spend probably way too much time on Twitter, but that's for good reason, because that's where a lot of cool, geeky futurist friends are. That's where great information, and definitely I love talking blockchain. So please feel free to reach out. And if I can't help you, probably I know someone who can.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, you certainly are doing great work. And I thank you so much for being on the show today and joining and being a leader in women in crypto. So thanks for joining us, Ann, and everybody, thanks for being here, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.